thank you everybody for joining this webinar. This webinar is actually part of the Medical Device Interest Group thought leadership content that we like to put out there to our members. This one's entitled Navigating HTA Regulation Implementation Acts to Future Perspectives and Key Considerations for the MedTech Industry. I am one of the co-chairs of the Medical Device Interest Group. My name is Richard Charter. I'm the founder and managing director of Chloe Healthcare Advisory Group, as well as senior advisor at BAMSTAR. The co-chair Anastasia is also on the call, and she's with NICE, which is obviously one of the most highly regarded HTA organizations globally. And then our technical officer Jarno, who does an awful lot of fantastic work to support the group, will also be able to moderate this webinar as well. So what are we going to talk about today? So first off, we'll give a quick overview and introduction to HTAI. I am very well aware there's a lot of non-HTAI members on this call, so we'll give a very quick background to that. Then we'll introduce the Medical Device Interest Group very quickly, and then we'll turn over to Marco, who is the star of the show, to give his perspective on the this highly anticipated HTA regulation that's coming down. And I should say that this is very timely because it was quite recently a very key meeting, I believe at the end of November, of which Marco will be able to update us on. And then we'll have some Q&A, which I will moderate. If you do have questions, we have opted to open up the question and answer period, box within the webinar itself, but there are a number of questions that have been submitted to me in advance, so we'll try and get to them as time permits, okay? So a very quick overview to HTAI and the HTAI Medical Device Interest Group. So Health Technology Assessment International is the only global nonprofit scientific and professional society for all of those who produce, use, or encounter health technology assessment. And certainly with regulations such as this, I believe that this becomes increasingly important. HTAI has the mission to support and promote the development, communication, and understanding and the use of HTA around the world as a scientifically based means of promoting the introduction of effective healthcare innovation and the effective use of healthcare resources. And again, with the crunch that we have on healthcare resourcing, and certainly with clinical staff, I believe that health technology assessment addresses one of the biggest public health issues, which is the financing of healthcare. So very much so a public health issue here. The Medical Device Interest Group specifically is a subset of HTAI. And basically, it was established in 2019. We established it at the Cologne HTAI annual meeting. We currently have over 400 members, a number of whom are on this call today. And we really aim to advance the dialogue on medical device HTA methods and evidence-based policy making. We have an advisory board. This is the first iteration of that advisory board, and you can see some of the notable members there, organizations like NICE, of which, again, Anastasia is a member, I'm working with. MedTech Europe, we have University of Bocconi in Milan, where I did my health economics master's program, and then obviously some key companies like Edwards Life Sciences, Medtronic, and organizations like the World Health Organization as well. So very good breadth and depth of coverage from our interest group. Now, our Medical Device Interest Group, through that advisory board, has the mission to promote the role of MedTech specifically, so not all technologies, but MedTech in the interdisciplinary and multi-stakeholder health technology assessments to enable the holistic shift of healthcare systems towards key principles of value-based healthcare, which are improving health outcomes and lowering the total system costs. We have about 3 goals. The first one is to produce relevant, objective research to inform and improve policymaking that is really designed to improve population health, advance the dialogue on medical device HTA methods and evidence-based policymaking, and to reflect all stakeholder groups and ensure that the unique role of HTAI is considered in policy discussion. Certainly in today's healthcare ecosystems, I don't think one stakeholder group can do it alone. So we like to have multi-stakeholder representation, including industry, including payers, HTA, policymakers, procurement teams, and so on and so forth. So we have a little bit of a call to action and for our members. So we're looking at redoing the advisory group that we have contributing. So if you are interested through your institution, so we don't want people with individual representation, but we want organizational representation to steer this medical device interest group. We'd love to have a chat with you and see if you're interested in joining. We aim to finalize this for January. In the last one, not only did we come up with the original mission statement and this direction for the group overall, but we came up with 5 key themes. First one was to move beyond the key challenges of medical device HTA and move towards implementing novel approaches to understand the role of AI, digital health, and medtech in conventional value assessment, and then also to include the sustainability in the context of HTA. What does green initiatives and environmental and ethical value drivers mean? That's a big one right now, and I'm surprised we had it back in there in 2019, but it was certainly a key theme then. Understanding HTA and value-based healthcare and how healthcare systems can implement change, and then implementing managed entry agreements for medical devices. So those are some of the themes that we focus on. And if anyone's got any thoughts on what we can focus on going forward, we'd love to hear from you. Now, HTAi also has an annual meeting. The next one will be in Buenos Aires in Argentina in June, where the key theme and key topic will be next-gen evidence, diversifying and advancing HTA to meet global demands. So there's a lot going on within the group, and we'd love to hear from you if you have questions. So please feel free to reach out to myself, Anastasia, or Jarno, and we can certainly fill in some of the information for you. So without further ado, I'd like to turn it over to Marco now. Marco is the HTA Member State Coordination Group co-chair, and he's also got tremendous depth of knowledge on HTA methods overall, coming from the Agilis organization within Italy. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to Marco. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Richard, for the floor. I'm sharing my screen now. Okay, I suppose that you're able to see my screen. First of all, thanks again for the invitation. I'm co-chair, as has been anticipated, I'm co-chairing the HTA Member State Coordination Group with a specific medical device expertise. You know that the regulation foresees two different configurations for the HTA Member State Coordination Group, one for pharma and one for medical devices. Actually, we took the decision to have just one joint configuration for the first 2 years. Now we extended the duration of the joint one configuration till the end of the next year, and then we need to review the decision. So and I'm taking care of the part on the medical devices. I would like just to give you a brief introduction. So many of this information probably you are still aware, but just to focus the discussion later on. So first of all, HTA regulation is focused on what is called clinical domains, so mainly on the health problems and current use of technology, the description of technology under the assessment, the relative clinical safety, the relative clinical effectiveness, and relative safety. I would like to highlight the terms relative because it's for medical devices, it's really something new, because even if we have MDR, medical device regulation, and VDR in Europe, in the reality, comparative data are mainly missing when a medical device is going to enter into the market after the CE marks. Non-clinical domains are not really on scope of the regulation, economic evaluation, ethical aspect, organizational, social, and legal aspect. Even if this is something that can be changed, can be updated, regulation foresee the possibility to have a voluntary cooperation, the Article 23, that permits also to work together for member state or also on those topics that are not in the mandatory scope. Coming back to the activities for civil regulation, there are two main activities: joint scientific consultation and joint clinical assessment. Joint scientific consultation is have the objectives to provide advice for those medical devices, so pharma, but we are talking about medical device now, technologies that are not yet started, and they are still in the phase of planning a clinical study plan. The medical devices that are eligible for the joint clinical assessment and joint scientific consultation are those high-risk medical devices that are in the class 2B or that are providing or removing pharma product from the human body, or class 3 implantable medical devices. What I would like to highlight is that we started to work all together in the HTA coordination group since June of 2022. So actually, more than 2.5 years has been passed. We had now 600 persons working in different organizations in Europe that have permitted to start in the next January 12 to the regulation to go into the operational phase. You know that from the next January, we are going to start with joint clinical assessment and joint scientific consultation, both for medical devices, for ATMP and oncology product, and the second part of the 2025 for the also joint scientific consultation for medical devices. The objectives of this regulation need to have a wider view of the European strategy on health. So the objective is to create a real, well interconnected European system, European Medicine Agency for pharma product, but also for medical devices, because EMA is coordinating the expert panel opinion process and the view process for diagnostic. And HTA regulation is going to provide this joint work on HTA that then need to be transferred to the national processes in different member states. And when this joint work will transfer to the national process, this is quite strictly connected with the pricing and reimbursement process. Here you have a more detailed timeline of the regulation, and so the date that is interesting for you is second part of 2025, when we will start with the joint scientific consultation for medical devices. Actually, we have just approved the working plan in which we have set it up the slot for the time slot for the call for the technology developer to apply for a joint scientific consultation. We also set it up the number of the joint scientific consultation that will be available for the next year. And starting from January 2026, we are going to have the first joint clinical assessment, both of medical devices and in IVD. And then, I mean, you can see also the other deadline for orphan drugs and also all the other drugs after January 2030. I would like to highlight some peculiarity of this regulation. This is the first example in Europe of co-legislation. As you know, I mean, generally regulation is a primary law of the European Union, is on top of the national law, and the application of the regulation is in the scope of the EU Commission. In this case, when the regulation was negotiated, this is not, the situation is different. Actually, we have the regulation that is driven by the member state through this HTA member state coordination group, that the political and strategic responsibility for the implementation of the regulation. The Commission is going to give administrative support, financial support, and IT support. It's quite important in the context of the regulation, the stakeholder network. The last Friday, we had the 4th meeting of stakeholder network. Is really a place in which we can discuss the processes and meet, so we can collect feedback from the stakeholders that are involved in the process. So the last Friday, we discussed about the latest guidance that has been adopted by the coordination group in the day before. Then we have a specific breakout session on medical devices, which discuss both with MedTech, with the hospital association, patient association, professional association, which kind of information should be useful for them coming from the joint clinical assessment, what should be the best timing for start joint clinical assessment, how is the time of the respect to the CE mark when the joint clinical assessment should be available according to the needs of member states. So it's a very fruitful discussion that gave us some important indication how to draft the next implementing act on joint clinical assessment on medical devices. And you know that, I mean, the title of this webinar is Navigating into the Implementing Art. Actually, for medical devices, we have closed the public consultation on November 26. Today, we have had a working group in the comitology committee to analyze the suggestion coming from the public consultation. It was, I mean, at least 4 or 5 very important suggestion that we will incorporate into the final text of the implementing act that we expect to adopt within the end of this month. So I suppose that before Christmas we're going to have published also the implementing act on joint scientific consultation. And finally, we are drafting the latest joint implementing act on joint clinical assessment on medical devices. We have shared, we started since early this year to share the idea respect to the time to have joint clinical assessment with relevant information, the possibility to update the joint clinical assessment with respect to the time in life of the medical devices. What will be included into the regulation for joint scientific consultation JCA for medical device MVD? So as you have probably the possibility to look into, I mean, for JSC, we have a detailed procedural rules with respect to the request, submission request from HTD developer, selection and consultation of stakeholder organization and patient, clinical expert and other relevant expert in JSC. And then we have the cooperation with the expert panel JSC and MD in case parallel consultation, because in the case of medical devices, we can have different situation in which we can have a parallel scientific consultation that parallel with the early scientific advice provided by the EMA. Or we can have this is on top of the request of the HTD developer, we can have also just HTAi scientific consultation. This is for medical devices. For IVD, we can have only HTA scientific advice. Is not, I mean, the MDR, the IVDR is not providing the legal context for providing early advice in the context of the expert panel. So EMA is not possible for IVD to have a parallel process, but it's possible just to have an HTA process. In the implementing act on the joint clinical assessment for MD, we are going to have also in this case, according to different articles of the regulation, a detailed procedure rules related to the cooperation with the notified body and expert panel for preparation and update of joint clinical assessment. So this means that we are going to have also connected with implementing act EMA, HTACG coordination group exchange of information, some unrestricted information coming from the expert panel opinion, moving through the HTA Secretariat managed by the EU Commission, from the EMA to the HTACG, and in particular, we decided yesterday and on last Thursday that the subgroup that is responsible for managing this information is the joint clinical assessment subgroup, and this information are useful to start with the selection process for medical devices to be submitted to the that have the possibility to go into JCA. And also this implementing act is going to manage the timing for the scoping process, when the scoping process will start, because the selection process will start before the CE mark, and the scoping process after the selection by the EU Commission through a recommendation of HTA coordination group will start immediately after the CE mark. And also in the implementing act, we are going to have format and templates related to the dossier to be provided by the developer, and also format and template for JCA report and summary JCA. This is another important concept that need to be clear. We have different discussion with different stakeholders that are interested in medical device context. The decision that we are gonna we have is that all the guidance and the methodological document adopted by the coordination group are, we say, technologies agnostic, so they are not targeted for each specific technology. So we received different requests to target this document for ATMP, for medical devices, but at the end the decision was that we are going to have agnostic methodological guidance, because these guidance are not setting and providing any threshold, any specific criteria of acceptability of evidence. All the guidance document are the objectives to describe and to be aware to member state what is the level of the uncertainty or the certainty coming from specific clinical study. So it means that different from the before, what we are going to have starting the next January, when you are going to have a JCA, we are going to have also a document that is able to support national authorities in understanding what is the level of the reality on the certainty of the information that is included, that is provided by the evidence. So you have all the list of the document that has been adopted since the year. There is another document that is missing that will we adopt, that is on medical device context, will we adopt in Q1 of 2025. This is the procedural guidance for joint clinical assessment for medical devices. Focuses on medical devices. I mentioned you that the medical devices that are in scope for the HTAR, for the joint clinical assessment, are those medical devices that are in class 2B or class 3, for which expert panel have provided a scientific opinion or a view in case of IVD that are in class D. So what does it mean? That we are going to receive the list from the EMA expert panel secretariat every 3 months with respect to the medical devices and the IVD that have received an opinion review. And we are going to have different choice. So for sure, you know that the expert panel is selecting medical device and IVD based on 3 criteria. The first one is the novelty of the medical devices or IVD. The second and the third one are related to the safety, so the frequency of the adverse event and the total number of adverse events. So the list of medical devices in the IVD that we are going to receive is just the list that are selected on novelty, because these are the medical devices that are in scope for JCA. And what is the reason? Because novelty is can be considered equivalent in first in class. So first in class, you can see this slide in the article 7.4. We have the criteria that set up, define which are the characteristics of medical devices that make the medical device eligible for joint clinical assessment. First in class is one of these characteristics. So because novelty is equivalent to first in class, all the list of medical device, all the medical device that we receive, the list of medical devices that we receive for the EMA secretariat can be eligible for JC. Then the regulation gives to the coordination group the possibility to apply further criteria that are unmet medical needs, potential impact on patients, public healthcare system impact, incorporation of software using artificial intelligence, machine learning technology algorithm, significant cross-border dimension, major union-wide and added value. How we are going to apply this further selection criteria? We will see, but probably no, in the sense that the number of the medical devices that we will really eligible to GC, we expect not to have more than 12, 15 medical devices IVD per year, according at least to the story. We have from 2021, expert opinion panel set it up, and according to the number of medical devices that they review up to now, I mean, this is the number that we expect to have. After the selection process that will be managed by the Joint Clinical Assessment Subgroup, HTA Coordination Group is requested to recommend the list of medical devices that will go under the Joint Clinical Assessment process. And after this recommendation, the formalization is connected with an implementing act adopted by the EU Commission. When the implementing data will be adopted by the EU Commission, this is the moment in which the process will start, the JCA process will start. I can say that we are planning to have JCA as soon as possible after CE mark. This is the request, the needs by member state, and we are going to have a JCA document finalized within no more than 12 months after the CE mark. This is the timeline that we were agreed according to member state. And this is the main element that will be in the implementing act on joint clinical assessment on medical devices. This number, just to have a look or how are the numbers. So we are talking about not really many devices per year. So we have in the expert panel process since the beginning 568 medical devices, and actually we have 60 medical devices that were selected for the expert panel opinion. For IVD, the number is quite more limited. So since April 2021, we have 21 expert panel opinion. I think that is useful to look which kind of medical device we are talking about. I mean, since April 2021, we have 7 medical devices for circulatory in the context of circulatory system, percutaneous pulmonary valve, aortic valve, mitral valve, biabsorbable stent, implantable cardioverter defibrillator, drug-eluting bioresorbable stent. We have orthopedics, traumatology, rehabilitation, rheumatology medical devices, system for total hip replacement or shoulder prosthetic system, biabsorbable osteosynthesis Q. And then we have just also 3 medical devices on general and plastic surgery and dentistry. And we have 1 medical devices in the neurology. These are more related to neurostimulation. And then finally, we have 1 devices for nephrology and urology. So the clinical area that is more represented for is circulatory, cardiocirculatory system, and then is 44% of the total number of medical devices, and orthopedic and traumatology rehabilitation that are 4 and that are 25% of medical devices. For IVD, is the number, as I already told you, quite more limited. We have since April 2021, 21 IVD that has been selected, but I have to note to comment that the first 15 views were provided in 2021. After 2021, the views are really reduced the number because in 2022 the Commission adopted common specification defining the expected performance characteristic for a series of Class D devices. And then I've introduced specific rules and criteria that were able to reduce because they are also describing the exception that can be applied in order not to go into the view opinion because they not have really an important impact on patients. So after 2021, from 2020, since 2022, the number of the opinion were really reduced. This is, I mean, just I don't want to go into the detail because it's very complex, full of information. This slide, I want just to highlight how is the effort to parallelize and to interconnect different processes, because in the app, in in the upper side of the slide, you have the process that is designed into the MDR and VDR. So you have a scientific advice that is performed by the expert panels, trying to give early advice for those medical devices or IVD that have the probability to go into an expert panel opinion and view. And joint and HTA regulation is foresee also joint scientific consultation that I anticipate you that can be in parallel or not for medical device with the scientific advice provided by the expert panel. For IVD is not possible. It's possible just HTA joint scientific consultation. And then finally, you have joint clinical assessment that start, with the selection process after the expert panel opinion has been delivered, and the joint clinical assessment we start after this the date in which CE mark has been provided. Regulation foresee different criteria for the selection of medical devices. I don't want to focus on the emerging health technology identification criteria because we are talking about very medical devices that have at least 5-6 years of timing in front of them before arriving to the market. Those medical devices are in scope for the emerging technology activities, horizon scanning, in the case that have major impact on patient, public health or healthcare system, important, and including estimated clinical impact and potential organizational and financial consequences for national care system. Selection criteria both for JAC and HTAi are quite similar. We have just one criteria that is different. So unmet medical needs, first in class. I remember that first in class can be considered equivalent to novelty, and this is the reason because all the medical devices and they would be coming from the expert panel process potentially are eligible to go into JCA if coordination group is not decided to apply any further criteria. Then we have potential impact patient, public health, or healthcare system, significant cross-border dimension, major union-wide added value, and lastly, the final criteria is different from JAC and JCA, union clinical research priority in case of JAC, because we are in the phase in which the clinical study plan is not yet designed, or JCA, incorporation of software using artificial intelligence of machine learning. Finally, would you like to highlight to stress the fact that the regulation foresee the voluntary cooperation that permit in the Article 23 that permit to member state to have joint work also on some technology that are not in mandatory scope of the regulation. In particular for medical, there is at the Article 23 at the point 2, regulation foresee the possibility to have a collaborative assessment of medical devices and in vitro diagnostic of medical devices. So what does it mean? That if member states agree, they can work also on medical devices that are not in the class 2B or class 3. So they can extend the application of the regulation. And we activated this article on the voluntary cooperation in the end of 2023, and we have more than 10 member states that want to work together, in particular on digital medical devices and on those medical devices that are in particular using artificial intelligence algorithm. During the discussion, the coordination group, you also were agreed that Europe have different member states that have different level of maturity of the system, respect in particular for medical devices. So the final conclusion was that we don't need to have all the member states available for voluntary cooperation, but we can also reduce the number of member states. Actually, we have more than 10 member states that are interested in working in this area, but the result of the voluntary cooperation should be used also to to be an advantage for the member states that are not working in the voluntary cooperation. So actually, we are going to, in the next, we set it up a working group on the voluntary cooperation. We start to discuss how to manage the voluntary joint work on HTAi, also in particular on digital medical devices. For sure, we are not in plan to start with JCA on digital medical devices in the next year, at least because we are main focus before early on the mandatory scope, but the process is in plan. I mean, we are trying to set up in the next months how should be the rules, the procedure, how can be the parallel process respect to the mandatory scope, the regulation, and the voluntary cooperation. And finally, I mean, in the next year, we are trying to manage the sharing of some best practice with some member states that are more in advanced respect to the medical devices evaluation, in particular for the topic of interest in digital medical devices. And also, we are trying to use the stakeholder network to have feedback from these medical devices. And this is the reason because this interaction with the stakeholder network, because we want to really to create a valuable system for these different stakeholders. And I come back what I told you at the beginning, that we have very fruitful discussion in the stakeholder network in catching the key element of the joint clinical assessment of medical device timing and procedure. And we have, I anticipate you that in the implementing act on the exchange of information among EMA and HTA coordination group and the HTA secretariat managed by the EU Commission, HTA coordination group need to decide which subgroup have to take care of to receive the information from EMA. We have different reasons to have just one subgroup and not all the subgroup coordination group, because first of all, is the nature of confidential information that we are receiving from EMA, because we are going to receive unrestricted panel opinion also before the CE mark, so it means that we need to maintain and to keep strictly confidential some information. And then also because it will be probably more efficient to have the same people that start to go into the information or evidence information on medical devices in the selection process, and the same people will be requested then to do joint clinical assessments. This is the reason because we in the flash report that is published last Monday in the HTA Member State Coordination Group website, there is in this flash report, there is this part respect to the selection of medical device and the joint clinical assessment subgroup as the subgroup responsible for the receiving the information. So thanks for your attention, and I hope that this presentation could be useful for you. Thanks.
Thank you, Marco. Really appreciate that update. Obviously, this is a timely topic, so we do have a number of questions. First one that's come in. So you've mentioned a lot about the first-in-class technologies. Can you indicate what will happen to second and third-in-class medical devices and whether they'll be eligible for JCA? And then also, how are you defining more precisely first-in-class?
Novelty is one of the criteria that is defined by the MDR, IVDR, and also the guidance that has been delivered by the Medical Device Coordination Group and then from the EU Commission. So, actually, the MDR foresee that the expert panel can also select for the expert panel opinion second in class or third in class when the information on the first in class on the evidence is not yet consolidated. And this means that expert panel we can receive from the expert panel. This is the link that we are forced to follow the list of the expert panel, but the expert panel can select also second in class and third in class if in case of the evidence is not sufficiently consolidate. And we are working together with the EMA to have a better tuning of the selection process by the expert panel opinion, expert panel of the also for those medical devices in the LVD that are in second in class and third in class. I mean, you asked me also to give a precise definition of first in class. I mean, we can start probably for another webinar. I just trying to say that, I mean, first in class is something that is really new, innovative, that is not, is changing the approach to the clinical treatment on a patient. And anyway, if we assimilate this to the novelty, it means that it can have a different, completely different mechanism of action that have a completely different impact on the clinical outcome.
Thank you, Marco. Yeah, no, it's I think the key takeaway, if I understood correctly, is that essentially be driven by the medical device regulation and the definition there. So at least there's some linkage between the two. If I picked up your answer question correctly there.
Yes, there is the link.
Excellent. So the next question is about the timing of the joint clinical assessment with respect to the CE mark date. Obviously, with the learning curve and some of the nuances of HTA for medical technologies, there's that learning curve effect where if you do it too early, the value's not there. If you do it too late, the product's already into adoption. Can you comment on the timing of the JCA versus the CE marking date?
Well, yes, I mean, we need to start to describe the context. When the CE mark is delivered, differently from the pharma environment, we have the medical device can be going to the market, so can go into the hospital, can be used by clinicians. And member state had the needs to face with the pricing and reimbursement process. So it means that they need to have information as soon as possible after the CE mark. This is the reason because we are planning in the implementing Gatton joint clinical assessment to start maximum within 3 months JCA after the CE mark, after the CE mark has been delivered. For sure, you are aware, and we have different discussion with the stakeholder, in particular with the HTD developer, that up to now, I mean, the medical devices that are arriving into the market, probably they have not comparative data, or at least they are not well-established consolidated data. But we need to find a way to have a balance, in the sense we have the needs from member states, from clinicians. This is a discussion that we have had in the last stakeholder network. So pharmacists, hospital, professional association, physician need to have some comparative data, need to have at least all the information that is possible to have when also patients want to have information, all the information that is possible to have when the medical device is going to enter into the market. So it means that we need to go fast in the joint clinical assessment. So the maximum time in which we expect to have joint clinical assessment published is 1 year from the time of the CE mark. We are also aware that we need to have a progressive process, a progressive approach, a progressive application of the regulation. So, sorry, I used the wrong words. We are not planning not to apply completely regulation, but for sure we are giving the possibility for those medical devices that have the evidence not yet consolidated at the moment joint clinical assessment to have an update joint clinical assessment, so they can request for an update. This is foreseen by the regulation. We are going to facilitate this update of joint clinical assessment as soon as possible. And also we are discussing about the possibility to provide, to give to the HTD developers to ask also for a joint scientific consultation, even if they have medical devices already certified, when there is major change in the evidence or when there is an update in the intention to use of the medical device. So the conclusion is JCA as soon as possible within 1 year and start within 3 months from the CE mark, and possibility for HTD developers to request for an update for JCA, but also to request, and this is under discussion still, to request the HTAC, a joint scientific consultation, in case of major change or major concern respect to the clinical study plan that can be bring to have a very different evidence respect to the evidence available at the CE mark moment.
Wonderful. Thank you. So it's my understanding the chat was out. So I actually have some personal text messages here where people have sent in some messages. So another one for you, Professor. When will they publish the list of medical devices which have been selected based on the selection criteria, the recommendations from the HTACG, and implementing act adopted by the Commission? So when do you expect to publish the actual list of devices that will be assessed?
I mean, we expect to have the first list. I mean, because we start for JCA for medical device in January 2026, we expect to have the first list. We have 2 options. We are discussing 2 options. We have the first list of medical devices in the next December, late November, early December. Or we can have the first list of medical devices selected in early January. So there is 1 month of difference, but for sure, I mean, when I'm talking about list of medical device selected, I'm talking about the publication of the implementing act of by the EU Commission, providing the officially the list. This is the moment in which JCA can start. All information are public because the medical devices already get the CE mark.
Wonderful. Thanks again. So I think you mentioned that you're expecting about 12 to 15 devices to go through. And I think you said in the first year, and correct me if I'm wrong, how many devices would you expect to see come through the JCA process over the next, say, 4 or 5 years? Like, do you expect it 12 to 15 per year, or do you expect to be able to do more as time progresses?
No, I expect to have I mean, I expect to have the capability to manage all the medical. I mean, with the actual number, we expect to have a JCA. Probably we don't need to have a selection process. I mean, we are able to provide all JCA for all medical devices.
Wonderful, thanks. And do you expect the guidance documents to be in the public domain once they're issued?
I mean, guidance and document are already public. They are published on the HTA coordination group website. The guidance that we adopted in the last Thursday meeting will be published within 1 week, 10 days. The only guidance that we are missing, and for medical devices, we expect to have in Q1 of the next year is guidance for selection for joint scientific consultation for medical devices, and a little bit later guidance, but not after May or June of the next year, procedural guidance for time frame and for joint clinical assessment for medical devices.
Wonderful. Thank you again for that. So another question, they're starting to come in a little faster now. I do feel a bit like a radio host here, but anyways. So this one is comparative data many times is only available 1 year after CE mark. So do you expect to update the JCAs to reflect this should anything material change?
Yes.
And would that be considered one of your 12 to 15, or would that be an additional one?
This is one of, every year we need to publish the working plan for the next year. So it means that at the end of the next year, we are going to publish also the capability for doing JCA for medical devices. But we need to, I expect that we are going to increase the capability. Actually, is starting capacity building tender that is managed by a consortium led by the agents with other 15 HTA bodies, that the objective is to train assessor and co-assessor, but not for the starting for the next year. We are ready to go for the next year. For the complete implementation of the regulation. So we are going to train 600 assessor and co-assessor in each body. So we are going to have an increasing number of the person that will be available to do JCA. So I expect also that we are going to increase our capability. So probably, I mean, we are going to have also the capability to update JCA further to the 15 medical device that we expect to have new every year.
Thank you. Thank you again. So another one on artificial intelligence and machine learning specifically, because it was mentioned a few times in your presentation. How do we understand the technology agnostic guidelines in the context of AI? And second to that, how do you envision the processes and methodologies of HTA to even evaluate artificial intelligence at this point? Do you feel you've got sufficient processes and methods on HTA on artificial intelligence to be able to do this at this stage?
Artificial intelligence is mentioned in the selection criteria. So this is one of the criteria that HTACG can use to select medical device for joint clinical assessment. And I mean, we have guidance that are, I mean, general guidance. They are not specific technology guidance. For sure, I mean, up to now, we are considering that this guidance could be sufficient to face all the medical devices that we are going to evaluate. But I mean, we have foresee also the update of this guidance every 2 years or even yearly if needed. So for sure, we can update if needed.
Wonderful. Thanks again. So another question, actually, I think it's from my friend Andrea. He says, hello, Professor. We learned that the GBA in Germany are delaying JCA for pharma. Do you expect any delays for the MedTech joint clinical assessment? Thank you.
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
So the question is that there's anticipated that the GBA in Germany are expected to delay the joint clinical assessments for pharma. Is that going to be the case for MedTech?
I mean, the delay in the sense that if we have a medical pharma product or medical device product that's asked for a EU JSC, and for sure there has been I mean, it's not possible a parallel process. For JCA, yes, in the sense that I expect that member state, I mean, the agreement among member states that is that we need to have within 1 year from the CE mark the JCA. This means this is a reasonable period of time in which we are going to use JCA. So it means that you can call delay. I mean, probably I can use some other terminology to describe this, but for sure, at least we have also the agreement of many countries, including Germany, to have JCA incorporated in their national process.
Wonderful. Thanks again. So final question, because we're nearly at the top of the hour. And I think this is a good one to close it off. What would success of the regulation look like for you? How would you sort of define the success if you were to think forward 5 years? What would you like to see happen?
I mean, the 4 or 5 years, I mean, I can say, I can explain, I mean, I can tell you the story of what I experienced in the last 2 years, and I can, if I able to project this in the next 4 or 5 years, what I say that when we move from a theoretical discussion respect to the text of the regulation into the practicalities, after 2 years, I mean, the willingness to work together is quite more higher than 2 years ago. So we realized that it's easier to do something together. And also this interest in the voluntary cooperation is going to be a testimony that even if we are not really in the scope, the mandatory scope of the regulation, there is really the willingness to work together also on those topics that are important for many member states, as I mentioned you, digital medical device. What I expect in the next 4 or 5 years, I expect not, I mean, a disruptive change, but expect an incremental change also in the harmonization not only on the method, but also in the processes and timing in different member states. You need to know that we have 40% of the EU population in 9 different member states that are under technical support instrument focus on the adaptation of national process, HTA national process, in order to be compliant and coherent with the HTA regulation. So I expect in the next 4 or 5 years, really an increasing impact of the application of the regulation. Then we have an intermediate step that is 2028, in which we will have the possibility to update the regulation and probably some. Actually, that we are going into the operative stage, probably we need to have a fine-tuning of some point of the regulation.
Thank you again, Professor Marchetti. So we're going to cap it off here. If I may, if there are other questions out there, please feel free to send them into the medical device interest group within HTAI. And Professor Marchetti, if I could maybe send those off to you if there are still questions that come in. But
Yes,
we'd love to have you
yes.
back and update us on this as it starts to evolve again. So hopefully there's some dialogue between this group and the HTAI medical device interest group, if that's okay. All right.
Okay. That's fine.
Thank you very much, Professor Marchetti. Thank you everyone for joining, and we'll let everyone know once the webinar recording is available.